It's straightforward to automate your browser. My name is Jensen. Let's learn some Microsoft Power Automate for desktop. The course page you see here you can find in the description below. First, we will download the Excel file, so click this link. That will take us to my OneDrive. You can click these three dots and click download. That will download a sheet called Data XLSX. Let's place it on our desktop. The first thing we want to do is to inspect the data, so I click open. There you go. We want to use the number 1 sheet called Companies 1 Data. Here we can find one number in the CVR column. You can see that is 3933 something. I go copy that. We want to do a web lookup. This is, by the way, a Danish VAT number. And then we want to write the result here in name. So we just want to do a simple lookup. Let me show you. If I navigate to the link, you'll see here that will take us to this page. You can have it in Danish, that is this one, or English. So then I paste in the number, I do a search, and then I want to scrape this name and write it back to Excel. That's the case that we want to create in Power Automate for desktop. So let's go do that. I open up Power Automate for desktop and then I click New Flow. Here I'll call it something like Browser Demo and click Create. That will open up a new flow and we're ready to go. The first mission is to read the data from Excel. Then we can work with it in the browser. So one step at a time. This is very straightforward. Just follow along on your own Power Automate for desktop instance. So I go to my desktop. That was where we downloaded the Excel book to. Here I press the Shift key in. I repeat, I press the Shift key in, then I right click, and you can see a copy as path emerges. That won't happen if you don't click the Shift. So click the copy as path. We can use it here in Power Automate for desktop. First, we want to launch this Excel book. So I maximize it so you can see it. I'll find a launch Excel and then I can just drag it in here. I want to open up this book. So I click this drop down and open the following document. The document path, that is the one that we just copied. So I just press Ctrl V. I repeat, Ctrl V. That will give us the path. We'll need to delete the quotation marks in the end here and in the start like this. Make instance visible. It can be fun to have an Excel sheet open to see data gets updated, but it's not really necessary. So I just untick it. It hurts performance a bit, nothing serious. So if you like to see data get updated, you can just have it visible. Open as read only, that is unticked. That is because we want to write data back to it. That will be our name, for instance. If I scroll a little bit down, we can see that this launch Excel, it produces one variable. It's called Excel instance. So whenever we want to refer to this Excel book, then we can just refer to the Excel instance. I click Save. Power Automate for desktop logs our Excel book while we work with it. So we want to end this Excel instance as well whenever we're done. So let's do that here. So I'll just find a close Excel. That's it. And drag it in here. I will not be saving the document this time. We'll do it a little bit later. Just click Save. So now we have created a robot that launches Excel and closes it again. If you click Run here, you'll see that we just launch, then close, and nothing will really happen. That's right, we haven't done anything with the robot yet. So let's go do that. Let me just show you one thing in the data. Because here we have several sheets. Power Automate for desktop will work with the last active sheet. So in our case, it will be this. But imagine that we have clicked here or here. Then it will start taking that data from there. We are not really interested in that. So let's get this worksheet name and let's use it in our flow. We'll do that by right-clicking click rename, and then copy the name here. Now let's move back to Power Automate for Desktop like this, and we will find a Set Active Excel Worksheet. So I'll say a Set Active Excel Worksheet and drag it in here between launch and close. So here we can see that we refer to the Excel instance again. That was the one we created up here. We will activate the worksheet with the name, and here I just paste in my name. So 1 companies, 1 data. So then I click save. So now we know we have the correct worksheet. We can read from it. So up in the actions, I find a read Excel here and drag it in after the Set Active Excel Worksheet. So here we can read from a single cell or from a range of cells. In today's case, we will just read from a single cell. So we will just have the value of a single cell in the retrieve. We want to read from the A column. That was where our CVR number was. And the start row, that will be 2. So we will read our cell in A2. And then again, we will produce a variable called Excel data. So the data we read, that will get stored in the Excel data. Let me click save. Now we actually have something going for us. So let's click run the robot and inspect the output data. Here, over here in the variables, in case you don't see the variable, it might look like this or this. Then you can just click this little X up here. That will show us the variables. Here you'll have the flow variables. These are the variables that is getting created here in the flow. You can see the Excel instance that got created in the launch Excel. But we also have the Excel data. And this is the exact number that we want to use. You can see it's a numeric value. I can copy this and then I can do the search. Or I can let Power Automate for Desktop do it for us. So let's see that. I'll close it here. We'll need to open up a browser. So I find a launch and then I can choose between 4 browser types. I can have the Chrome, which is my preferred and the one that we're using today. You can also go with Edge or Firefox. Just don't go with Internet Explorer. That one is outdated. It has some security breaches and some performance issues. So we want the Chrome. So we want to drag it in right after we have read the Excel worksheet. So I'll just drag it in here. And here we can launch a new instance. That's exactly what we want. And we want a URL. So let's go find that. We are not having this URL. So make sure you are on the front page and then just copy the address from either here or the course page. It's also here. So let me go back to Power Automate for Desktop and paste in the URL like this. Then I can click save. So when my robot has ran, I also want to close this browser. So let us just do that as well. Close. And then I will find this close web browser and close it. I can just close it after or before the Excel. That doesn't matter. Again, we can see that we refer to a variable called browser. That's the one we created here in Launch New Chrome, the browser here. So then I can click save. Let's see it in action. So I just click run. And remember one thing, Power Automate for Desktop will not autosave your flows. So you need to click this little save while you build to make sure you save it. If you try to exit it, like clicking this X up here, it will warn you, but it's just good practice to save here and there. I'm not sure if you saw it, but we actually ran our flow. Let me try to run it again. That one will launch Excel, and you can see here, we open up the browser and it got closed again here. If you experience any kind of problem with Excel, sometimes Power Automate for Desktop will cause a little bit of problems with Excel. If it does that for you, simply just click this Start menu, type in CMD, that is command prompt, and now we can hard close our Excel by writing task kill /F/IM and then the name of the process, that is Excel exe, like this. Now we don't have a process open, but this will close the Excel processes if you have something open that got open here in Power Automate for Desktop and not got closed. You don't have to do anything. This was just if you had problems with your Excel worksheet. So now we have launched our browser. We also closed it again. And since we really want to do that in the final robot, we want to do the steps, like we want to populate the data and we want to extract them. So I'll just disable these steps. We will enable it in the end. So I right click here and disable action. This just does mean that Power Automate for Desktop will ignore this step. So that's fine. We can run the robot again. Let me click run. We will launch Excel, set the active worksheet, read from it, and now we will have our page open. The default one that is in Danish, but we want to use the English. So we want to click on this little English up here. The way we will do that is that we'll go back here. Then we will find a click link on web page here and move it in right after the launch new Chrome. So we are in our browser instance. That was the one here. Then we will need to create a UI element. That is very easy. Click the drop down here, choose Add UI Element. Now you can see I can choose different parts of the UI elements here in this browser. So I can click almost everywhere, or at least at the elements the web developers had made when they designed this page. I want this English up here. So I mark this. You can see that's called button. I don't click with the button yet because I need to press Control and then I click here. So now we created a UI element that we're using here. We will left click, that is fine. Then I can click Save. I'll now run the flow again. You will see that we'll still click the English. So this button doesn't change attributes whenever it is blue or black. So that is fine. We will not do a check. Imagine that, for example, that this attribute changes, so this UI element that we just created for the English button didn't work anymore, but we knew that we were on the English one, then we would have to do a check. And let me show you how that is done. So that is a good practice whenever you automate browsers, and we can fine tune it, it will work. So we'll go over to actions. And then we will find a if web page contains, and this is just to look for something. So then I'll move it in here. So right after the new Chrome, then I will look for this button because I will check if the web page contains this element. I'll click this drop down and then I just choose the UI element that I just created. That one is here. I can click select. Then I click save. So you can see that this has a start and an end. So this will look for our initial button. That was the one we created whenever, let me just show you here. When it looked like this, it will look for this. And if it finds it, it will do it here. If this was the page open, then we will perform the actions inside it. So I could move this one in here. So this click will only be performed if Power Automate for Desktop could find it. This is clever because if Power Automate couldn't find the button, the robot will break. Now we have made our robot a little bit more robust. That is nice. You can also see that we create new browser windows whenever we test our robot. Let's just close them. It doesn't really matter. So after we click this English, now we want to do a search. And let me just show you here. We want to do the search in this search field. So let's create a UI element for this search field. We'll also be creating a UI element for the search button. It looks like this. So I'll just be clicking this X here. We will find a populate text field on web page. So populate text field on web page. Make sure you take the one on the web form filling. We also have another one up here in UI automation form filling. This one is for legacy applications. So I'll drag this in. And now I will just move outside this check. This was only for the English button. Again, we will be creating a UI element. It changes slightly because now we don't have this blue button on the front page, but we can add the UI element by taking this add UI element. Again, you can see we can choose the elements. We want this input text field. We can even move this so we can see the red border. Press Control and then click the search field. That one created the search field. We can now do a text. We could do some random numbers like that. That will search for 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 4, 2, 5. but that was not our mission. We have our data stored, you remember, over here in Excel data. So if I delete this, now I can refer to this Excel data. I do that by having a percentage sign. Then I'll say Excel data and another percentage sign. A much more clever way to do this, let me delete it again, is to press this little X up here. That will have the variable picker. Now I just take that one, either double click or click select, and you'll see it get written here. This has the benefit that we will not misspell it, so a little bit more robust again, and I can just click save. So now we're populating it. Let me show you. Click run. We are launching Excel, then we're setting the active sheet, blah, blah, blah. English, now we're doing a search. We still need to press this button. No problem, we will do it like we pressed the English button. So I will just have a click link on web page and drag it in after the populate text field. Here I will create another UI element. So I'll have the add UI element. We will have this search button. You'll see that we have two ones here. I'll just take the larger one. It does not really make a difference here. I press Control and we have the search button. I click save. So now we're doing a search and we can test the robot again. So I just click run up here and we are launching Excel, blah, blah, blah. Now we're opening it and we're searching it. And here we have our result. Now we just need to extract this name. In the final case, we will also extract a lot of other information, but for now we want the name. So let me close the browser. So we created UI elements here. And if you click this stack of papers over here to the right, you will see our UI elements. We have the English button here. Then we have the button search. And we have this input text search CVR. That was the input field. The best practice is always to rename your UI elements to something that is easily understandable. It might not be a problem right now because we can remember everything, but imagine coming back to this automation in like 2 months when something needs to get fixed, or even a year, then it might be harder. And imagine it's one of your colleagues, then it can be very difficult. Or we will make our colleagues' life easier in the future if we just keep good naming convention on our UI elements. So if I just either F2, click this and F2, or right click, rename, I will call this something like input CVR field, and then click enter. I have renamed it. We can see that we also automatically renamed it over here. So for the robot to run, it didn't make any difference at all, but for us developers, it made a huge difference, or maybe just a little difference, but still. I click the X here. So now we want to extract the data. We will find a extract data from web page here and drag it in. Make sure you take the one on the web data extraction again and not the one up here on the data extraction, and drag it in. So we want, after we click the link that is the button, we want it to come in. So here you need a CVR page open. So what we will do here is that we will have to open up this one here. And now you can see that we still really haven't, don't have our result, and we need that open. So I will just be clicking here without having this control pressed in, and that will open this one again. Now we will pick our data. I want this Vår Revisor APS. I want this data out. But this will work whatever CVR number we have searched for that gave us a valid result. Now I will right click while this H1 is marked. Then I'll pick the extract element value and I'll pick the text. That is an attribute, and that is the reason it will work with whatever CVR number we put in if it's valid. Then I just click finish. You can see here that we have stored in a variable all data from web page. I now click save. So now we will write it back to Excel. I'll click this X up here, and then I will find a write to Excel worksheet. Write to Excel here and drag it in here like this. this will open up some parameters to fill in. We will write to this Excel instance, that is fine. And what do we want to write? Well, we want to write the name that was the result. We saved that in the data from web page. You can see it here. So I just click this X up here. That is clever. I can double click here. It got filled in automatically. Where do we want to write? We still want to write in the same row, that is row number 2, but we want to write it in the next column, that is the B column. I click Save. We will just change 2 things. So I open up this Close Excel. I will now save the document like this, and then I click Save. I will also be closing the web browser now. That is fine whenever we're done. We used it while we worked with the UI elements on the web page. So what I will do is I right click and click Enable Action. Let me just close these ones here so you can see that it actually works. I can also close this one now, and then I minimize. Let's run our robot and verify that our data is what we want. So here we are clicking the link, we're scraping the result, and we're writing it back to Excel. So let me open it here. There you go. We have now written in the name. Well done. You have now automated your browser work. Click the link here on the screen to take the full 4-hour Power Automate for Desktop course. See you.